Today we're going to learn how to forge a cowboy hat as a blacksmith. First is to make a pattern, a tracing on a piece of sheet metal. This is actually narrow plate. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. I like to make my hats heavy. They can be made thinner. There's some positives and negatives about both ways. I do the rough cut of the blank on a masonry saw. I use it as an abrasive saw. This is a great tool. One of the most important things is to be sure you're dressed properly when you use this kind of tool. Eye protection, ear protection, and gloves. The nice thing about this saw is the table moves and the head comes down via a foot pedal. So you can actually just put this on here and slide it back and forth. And I cut out squares and then I cut the corners off to get kind of a stop sign shape, which I then take to another tool. You can see how this foot pedal works. One of the handiest tools I have in my shop is this grinding station. It's something I made that has numerous belt sanders and polishers on it, and actually hang my grinders and drills on it also. It's a great tool. The sander we're going to use is 3 by 132 inch, and I think I have like 36 grit in there for rounding these things up. So I'll bring the kind of rough shaped blank over, and I'll round it out on this. This thing eats metal like butter. You have to wear gloves. It not only eats metal, it eats skin, and it'll grind your fingers to the bone before you even know it's happening. Don't ask me how I know that. But, anyway, just get it nice and rounded up. Work on the edges a little bit. This is the kind of forge I use mostly. It's a propane forge. I make these. Actually, building one of these will be the topic of another video later. Bring the disc in and put it in there. This forge is about 8 inches in diameter and 8 inches long. It's probably my most used forge. I'm going to heat up a couple of the tools I use. This is a bottom swage. It's actually a heavy pipe where the top has been relieved. Just means rounded. And then I use a tool to sink the hat. This is actually just a tie rod that I've welded a stem on. So, the thing is to bring the disc out after it's hot. It's got to be very hot. Center it. I just use the struck tool to center a little bit. Hit it a couple times to get a dimple in the center. It'll start cooling immediately. I heat those two tools up so that when I set that disc down on them and hit it with the other one, the tools don't draw the heat out quite as fast. The other reason I heat them is I put a lubricant on them, which you'll see should see once or twice in the future here. The lubricant helps. There we go. The lubricant is a salt-based solution. It's an industrial product. Actually, that's not made anymore, but any forging lube would work. This particular lube is salt-based and it flashes out. So the tool has to be hot when you put it on it. The liquid flashes out and leaves a salt-based product on it. You can see me hit that. That's the second time I hit it. It takes numerous heats to make a hat, to sink this deep enough to actually make the hat. If you rush it, you will, or hit it too cold, you'll push that top tool right down through it and break it. It will warp. When I took it off that last time, I straightened out that rim. It will waver, go into a waver and warp. You have to straighten that out as it does that. You can't wait too long, because if you wait too long, it'll actually wrinkle. Keep bringing it out, sinking it. It takes a little bit while to to know how long you can hit that without going through. When I'm asked, how do you know? I say, well, I hit it till just before the next time would have taken it through, and you kind of get a feeling for it. And if you look at it, you look at what you have coming out of there, you can see it start to stretch more than you want it to. I've broken through on numerous of them. I've made hats with them broken through. It's just a different kind of hat. It's a hat that's been wore a lot. So anyway, this is a really nice project. It's not hard. The tooling's not difficult to make. I've made hundreds of these hats, all different sizes. You get a feeling for when you're hitting it. It tells you to stop hitting me because I'm getting cold, and it wrinkles up, and you just keep straightening it out. Really kind of neat. I demo this. I do this as a demo once in a while, and it's always pretty well received. I generally don't sell these, although I have sold a few. Most of them go to charity auctions or guild auctions, or into Iron in a Hat, which is a blacksmith little lottery, or individual items. These have been sold all over the East Coast and in the Midwest at hammer-ins I go to. Like I say, most of what I make is donated to support paying for hammer-ins or demonstrators or whatever. Just keep working. I've changed hammers here a couple of times. It doesn't matter what hammer you use here, just so you hit flat and you don't mark it up. So, I wear a glove on my left hand because these things are pretty hot, and I get my hand pretty close to them. And actually I get my hammer hand pretty close to them sometimes too. You can see they're pretty, almost as deep as I need to go. Actually, I am as deep as I need to go, because this next step is to start shaping the hat itself, shaping the top of the hat. Oh no, the next step is to put my mark on it. I beg your pardon. Bring it out. You need to do that here before you start bending stuff up. That's on the bottom side. You'll see a picture of my mark later. Now the next step. This is the hardest part. I always say when I'm demonstrating anyway, and I bring it out and everybody's straining to look and leaning forward on their chairs and leaning in to see closely. I set this hat on here, and I'm telling them I'm gonna start put the top dimple in, and you got to line this up perfectly. Wham! Hit it one time hard, and that's all. On these shaping of this part of the hat, you only want to make single hits, so you have to kind of learn to hit hard. If you make multiple hits, it'll show. You'll kind of mess it up. So I got the top dimple in. Wasn't that difficult? And now I line up so I can put in the side dimples. So you just put the head up against something and put some kind of tool up against on the side and lay it down there and whack it once really hard. That's all you need to do. People look at my hats and they say, well, do you use oblong sinking tools? I said, no, all my sinking is done round. Those dimples turn oblong when I hit them from the sides. Simple as that. There's no magic here. Great demo. Anybody can learn to do it. That hammer that I'm hitting is soft. It's tools that I've made, some of them specifically for making the hats. This is just one size hat I have made probably a dozen or more different sizes. At the end of the video, you'll see some of the examples. The smallest ones I've made were probably dime sized for earrings. The largest one I think was like a 9 or 10 inch blank. That tool I just put in the hardy hole I use to bend the rim. that can be made out of anything. Bring the hat out, line it up where I want to bend it down. I use a leather mallet because I'm swiping here, and I don't want to put marks on this. So I use a leather mallet. It took me a little bit to figure out I should do that because I was marking it. I'm actually swiping that down. When I first started doing this, I just did them over the Bic on the anvil, but I figured out easier ways to do it, quicker ways. So I have several sizes of all these tools. I got the sides done. It's important to do these in this order. Do the sides first, and then do the front and the back of the brim. And I just use the leather mallet over the horn of the anvil to put the front and the back. It's on. Bring that out. That's all there's to it. That hat's a done deal right now. It's just got to cool a little bit, and then we'll put a little brass touch on it, and then we'll wax it, and it's done. That's all there's to it. Wire brush it. Now this is still hot. This metal is still hundreds of degrees hot, and it would burn you if you touched it. Put a little brass accent on it. You'll see in a second. And that we do that with a brass brush. It has to be pure brass. It can't be something that's coated. It's got to be pure brass. And this is just a barbecue brush. And when you brush that on there, if the metal's hot, some of it will transfer. It's almost like electroplating. But it literally just kind of melts on there. It seems kind of weird, but it does. And the hat doesn't have to be at the melting temperature of brass. It's the rubbing that actually does it, and the heat helps. I just do it a little bit to get accents. I don't try to do the whole thing. I don't want the whole thing done. I just want a few little accents on it. Just a little bit like that. I'm going to be waxing this in just a second here. I use Butcher's wax. I'm a little disappointed that the brand doesn't show up, but it's Butcher's Bowling Alley Wax, clear. I used to make my own wax. Use the blacksmith witch's brew. This is much better, for me anyway. I normally will wait till what I'm waxing cools down so that it doesn't smoke hardly at all. If it's too hot, the wax will burn, and you won't get as nice a finish. But in the interest of time, I went ahead here.